The Catholic Church has a mental health problem, not because she doesn't care, but because for too long, we didn't know how to talk about it. But now, Pope Leo XIV is changing the conversation, and we are breaking it wide open today. Welcome to the Catholic Couch, the official audio podcast of the Catholic Counseling Institute. I'm Amber Pilkington, Catholic therapist, wife, and mother. Around here, we talk about real issues with real faith, blending the wisdom of the Catholic Church with the best of psychology, so you can find clarity, peace, and purpose in your relationships, your vocation, and everyday life. Whether you're folding laundry or driving the carpool, pull up a seat and let's go. Welcome back to the Catholic Couch. I'm Amber Pilkington, Catholic therapist, wife, mother, woman who has spent thousands of hours counseling Catholics who feel invisible in their suffering. And I have to say, this month's papal prayer hit me right in the heart in the best of ways. So we've got to start with honesty. Mental health is still hard to talk about in a lot of Catholic spaces. People are afraid of judgment, afraid of misunderstanding, and sometimes afraid of saying the wrong thing and just making it worse. So this isn't just a gentle reminder. It's a response to a crisis the Church can't ignore anymore. This month, June 2025, Pope Leo XIV did something that stopped me in my tracks. He took the silence, the stigma, the struggle, and turned it into a prayer, a global one, an invite to the entire Church, not just to see those suffering with mental illness, but to respond with tenderness, with mission, and with Christ's own heart. If you've ever wondered whether the Church truly sees your pain or the pain of someone you love, this episode's for you. So take a deep breath. We're going there together. Here's what Pope Leo XIV invited us to pray this June: that the world might grow in compassion for all those living with mental illness, and that every person suffering mentally or emotionally might find consolation and encounter in Christ and in his Church. And then he added a personal prayer from his own heart. Lord, I come to your tender heart today. I bring to you those who feel isolated, ashamed, or unseen. Send us out on a mission of compassion and consolation for the world. That phrase, a mission of compassion and consolation, is not just poetic. It is profoundly theological. It's Christological. It's what the Church is supposed to be. A place where the wounded can rest, where the struggling can be seen, and where the suffering are not reduced to their symptoms, but honored in their dignity. So I want to pause on this because I can only imagine what some of you might be thinking. If you're thinking, that's beautiful, Amber, but my church barely talks about mental health, or I tried sharing about anxiety in my Bible study and it got really awkward really fast. I get it. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. This is at the heart of the mission of the Catholic Counseling Institute. But this prayer from Pope Leo, it is a huge step in the right direction. And it's not coming from a blog. It's not coming from an Instagram caption. It's coming from the Pope, from the heart of the Church. And here's why it matters. It's not just about awareness. It's also about permission. Permission to bring your whole self, your joy, your struggle, your healing, your diagnosis into the life of the Church. So we have to start with the uncomfortable truths that the Catholic Church has a mental health problem. About 20% of U.S. adults, that's about 53 million, experience some form of mental illness each year. And 5.5%, which is about 14 million, live with a severe mental illness. Among adolescents, nearly 22% have a serious emotional disturbance, yet only about a fifth of those receive any treatment. And this comes from a Catholic source. Since COVID-19, anxiety and depression rates have risen by about 25%. I certainly don't need to tell you that. Here's something you might not know. In a 2023 study of 335 U.S. Catholic priests, it found high levels of mental health challenges. Priests with excessive recreational screen time, which is defined as more than 3 hours a day, were 3 times more likely to experience anxiety and were nearly 3 times the risk of depression as well. Low physical activity, which is defined as less than 150 minutes a week, correlated with almost a 9-fold risk of depression. And don't worry, I'll put all of these citations in the show notes or descriptions so you can read the studies yourself. That same year, in 2023, the U.S. Bishop's statement acknowledged a dramatic rise in depression and suicide among youth, a continuing shortage of mental health resources across the country. Again, another reason that we wanted to start the Catholic Counseling Institute is to be a resource for people in poorly served regions. And the bishops acknowledge that stigma remains a huge barrier. Even within parishes, many feel ashamed or unseen. An international Lebanese study found that clerics often have a scientifically based understanding of mental illness and generally support medication, but also hold some stigmatizing attitudes. Increased direct contact with individuals with mental illness significantly reduce the stigma. But here's the thing. How do you know if someone has a mental illness that you are in direct contact with if they don't feel safe enough to share? There's some good news too, because a Gallup-Pew meta-analysis, which is one of the strongest research designs, revealed that religiously committed individuals were twice as likely to report being very happy. Higher religious involvement is consistently linked with lower depression, lower suicide risk, and better life satisfaction. The National Catholic Partnership on Disability highlights that stigma forces many to hide symptoms, and in some cases, to stop attending church, which is why Pope Leo's statement and prayer is so incredibly important, because we know the value that mass participation or participation in the life of the church can offer. Studies show that 1 in 4 religious believers globally experience a mental health disorder in their lifetime. Clergy in smaller communities often view these mental illnesses as dangerous or easily recognized, which is actually not true. In October of 2023, the U.S. bishops launched a national Catholic mental health campaign. This is where they cited the rising rates of depression and suicide among Catholic youth, along with limited resources in dioceses. Several years ago, this call made me start thinking about what a Catholic counseling institute that gave away free mental health, authentically Catholic resources and information might look like. If I've just thrown a ton of studies at you and your eyes have kind of glazed over, let me just summarize with this. Here's why it matters. Prevalence is high, treatment is scarce, clergy are vulnerable, stigma persists, but faith can help. And Pope Leo's prayer is not just timely, it's essential. Numbers call for both pastoral presence and practical ministry. So we go back to why the Catholic Church has a mental health problem. It's not because she doesn't care, not because she lacks truth or wisdom, but because for too long we didn't know how to talk about it. Mental illness made people nervous. We whispered about it in confessionals. We prayed about it in private. But rarely did we see it named publicly in our parishes, let alone from the pulpit, let alone from the Vatican. And the silence, it actually sends a message. It said that kind of suffering, well, maybe it doesn't belong here. That is why this month, Pope Leo's prayer, I felt was so important. It starts breaking down this silence. I love that Pope Leo didn't just offer platitudes, he offered presence. He called the church to ministry. And that's a turning point. It's a signal that things are changing. And the question now isn't, will the church respond? It's, will we? So here's what this has to do with you right here, right now. Let's make it practical, because this isn't just a nice intention floating out there for someone else to deal with. This, my friend, is for you. It is for me. It is for the Catholic Counseling Institute. It's for the people we sit next to in the pews who look totally put together but are barely holding it together on the inside. It's for the woman crying in her minivan after daily mass, for the teenage boy who won't leave his room anymore, for the dad with high-functioning anxiety who keeps pushing through because he thinks asking for help makes him seem weak or proof that he lacks virtue. And it's for the mom who's listening to this and quietly thinking, does God really care about how exhausted I am, about how overwhelmed I feel on most days, about this fog I can't shake? Yes, he sees you. And he's not just asking you to hold it together a little longer. He's asking the entire church to help hold you. This is where faith and mental health meet, not as opposing forces, not as shame versus grace, but as a place where Christ enters suffering and transforms it, not by removing it, but by redeeming it. Pope Leo's prayer is a reminder that your nervous system is not your moral compass. Your depression is not a defeat of your holiness, and needing help, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're human and you were never meant to walk this alone. So what do we do with that? How do we respond? Not just emotionally, but practically. Yes, let's talk about that next. What does a mission of compassion and consolation look like? Let's talk about the phrase, a mission of compassion and consolation. It sounds beautiful. But what does it actually mean in the mess of daily Catholic life when you're making dinner, juggling therapy appointments, dodging teen mood swings, and navigating your own anxiety? Let's break it down. Compassion means to suffer with, not to fix, not to theologize, not to just cheer someone up with a quirky Pinterest quote, but to enter into someone's experience with presence. When Jesus saw the woman with the hemorrhage, he didn't say, well, that's been a long time. Let's move on. He called her daughter. He saw her, honored her story, and restored her identity. That is compassion and consolation. Consolation means to bring solace with. It means showing up when someone's still in the thick of it. It means sitting with them in the ache before the solution. It means holding space for both and pain without rushing either. Now listen, this is really important. This isn't just a nice way to behave. It is a participation in the very mystery of redemption. St. John Paul said in Salvifici Dolor, and I want to read this slowly, human suffering evokes compassion. It also evokes respect, and in its own way, it intimidates. For in suffering is contained the greatest of a specific mystery. That greatness of a mystery, when you enter into someone else's suffering, not to fix it, but to accompany them with dignity, you are stepping into that mystery, not just being nice. You are being Christ. You're becoming an echo of the Sacred Heart. And friend, if you're the one who is in need of compassion and consolation today, hear this. You are not a burden. You are not overreacting. You are not spiritually weak. You are worthy of gentleness, of presence, of healing, of help. And so here's some things that you can do without starting a nonprofit or leading a parish program. I get the Catholic Counseling Institute is not everybody's project. All right, let's talk about what this can look like in your life without needing a theology degree or a free Tuesday night. Because a mission of compassion and consolation doesn't have to mean big. It just means intentional. And it starts in the smallest of places. So I put together 4 things that you can do this week to respond to the Pope's call, right where you are. Number 1, pray for the intention with someone, not just for someone. Light a candle, grab your spouse, say it with the kids, or text a friend and say, hey, I'm praying this for you today. The second Monday of the month is now set aside for Catholic mental health prayer. Mark it, automate it in your calendar, and make it holy, because prayer is not passive, it's participation. Number 2, talk openly about mental health in your Catholic circles. You don't need to lead a formal ministry to break the silence. You just need to be the one who can say, yeah, I've had anxiety too. It doesn't make me less Catholic. Or our teen started therapy, it's helped a lot. Or even just, you don't have to carry this alone. I'm so glad you shared. Shame cannot survive compassionate conversation. And it dies even faster in a room where someone goes first. Number 3, be the safe person. No degrees required. You don't have to give answers. Just be someone who listens well. Don't rush and reflect back someone's dignity. You could try this line. That sounds really hard. And I'm so glad that you shared it with me. That one sentence can be more healing than a whole lecture. Start small in your parish. You don't have to launch a whole program. If you'd like the Catholic Counseling Institute to help, be sure you reach out in the comments. But you don't have to. You can start by offering to host a holy hour for people carrying mental burdens. Print and post the Pope's prayer in your narthex. I'll leave a link in the description. Send your pastor the Catholic Mental Health Minister's website and say, hey, we need this. Just one step, that's a seed. And here's the truth. Seeds always grow when they're watered with love. And here's a special word I'd like to give to Catholic moms and anyone else who feels invisible in their pain. Before we close, I want to speak directly to the woman listening who feels like this prayer intention is about everyone else but her. You might be the mom who keeps showing up with a smile, but you're breaking down in the bathroom after bedtime. You might be the ministry leader who helps everyone else, but feels like you're drowning in silence. You might be the teen girl, the college student, the exhausted professional, the postpartum mom, the wife whose marriage feels like more of a roommate situation, and you're wondering, if I'm really a faithful Catholic, why do I still feel this way? Sister, please listen. You can love God deeply and still struggle with your mental health. You can be a woman of the Eucharist who still needs Zoloft. You can be in adoration and still feel anxious. There is no shame in your humanity. Jesus did not only come to redeem your soul, he came to walk with your entire person, including your nervous system, your hormones, your sleep-deprived brain, your sensory overload, your anxiety attacks, and your aching loneliness. And if you feel unseen by the people around you, please know this. You are deeply seen by the heart of Christ. The Sacred Heart is not just an image, it is a reality that beats with compassion, constantly looking for the lost, the tired, the overwhelmed, and the grieving. This prayer intention from Pope Leo XIV, it is for you. It's for the church saying to you, you are not too much, you are not alone, and you are not forgotten. And I just want to echo that from one Catholic woman to another. The church has had a mental health problem, but that does not have to be the end of the story because something is shifting. The stigma is thinning and the Sacred Heart is beating loudly in the center of it all. And this prayer from Pope Leo XIV isn't just a moment. In the words of Lin-Manuel Miranda, it's a movement. It's the church stepping forward, finally saying what so many of us needed to hear. You are not alone. Your suffering is not invisible, and your story is not outside the reach of grace. Whether you're the one struggling or the one walking alongside someone who is, whether you found healing or you're still searching for words, there is room for you here. You don't have to be perfect to belong, and you don't have to be fixed to be faithful, and you don't have to carry this alone. If Pope Leo's prayer is the spark, then you, dear sister, are part of that fire. You are the tenderness of Christ in your home. You're the invitation to healing in your parish, and you are the voice that helps make the church safer, softer, and stronger. So let's take the next step. Pray the prayer, talk about mental health, be the safe place someone else needs, and download the free Sacred Heart Mental Health Prayer Card because the church doesn't need more silence. It needs more people like you, full of faith, compassion, and courage, lighting candles in the dark. Thanks for spending time with me today. And remember, there will always be a place for you on the Catholic Couch.